Catalina Gutierrez, a 21-year-old architecture student and a rising social media star to her 80,000 followers, was the epitome of success. A radiant personality, a dedicated student, and a friend to many, her Instagram stories were filled with snapshots of her favorite moments, morning coffees, architectural sketches, and cheerful glimpses of a young woman with the world at her feet. But the image she shared online was just one part of her life. Catalina was more than just an influencer. She was a daughter, a sister, and a friend. Her parents described her as kind-hearted and driven, someone who lit up every room she entered. Friends often spoke about her knack for bringing people together. She could talk to anyone, one close friend said. She made you feel seen. Beneath the bright surface of her public life, however, there were hints of something unsettling, a shadow creeping into her world. It was the evening of June 14, 2023, when Catalina told her boyfriend she was heading out to meet friends for a night of bowling. It wasn't unusual. She loved spending time with her close circle, and this night was no exception. She sent a cheerful voice memo to her boyfriend, telling him she would see him later. Her mother waved goodbye as Catalina stepped out the door wearing her favorite denim jacket and carrying the small purse she always had with her. But that was the last time her family would see her alive. The hours passed, and her friends waited at the bowling alley, expecting her to walk through the door at any moment. But Catalina never showed up. At first, they thought she might be running late. It wasn't like her, but things happened. They texted her and called her phone. No response. Minutes turned into hours, and their concern grew into a growing fear. Her boyfriend tried to stay calm, but the pit in his stomach grew heavier with every unanswered call. When he reached out to her family, their worry turned into action. They began retracing her steps, calling everyone they could think of. Catalina was responsible, always quick to respond. Something was wrong. Her parents reported her missing to the police in the early hours of the morning, their voices trembling with fear. She wouldn't just disappear, her mother insisted, clutching Catalina's photo. The authorities began their search immediately, understanding the urgency of the situation. Missing persons cases often hinge on the first 48 hours, and every second counted. As the morning sun rose, Catalina's family took matters into their own hands. Using the tracking app on her phone, they followed its signal, hoping to find her safe and sound. But the path led them to an abandoned parking lot, a cold, desolate place that sent chills down their spines. Her mother's car was parked there, eerily still. The sight of it was like a punch to the gut. "She has to be here," her father said, his voice wavering. But nothing could prepare them for what they were about to find. Inside the car lay Catalina's lifeless body, burned and unrecognizable. The scene was devastating. Her family collapsed in tears, their worst fears realized. The police quickly arrived, cordoning off the area and beginning their investigation. Who could have done this to her, and why? The crime scene was horrific. The level of violence suggested something personal, something deliberate. Investigators worked methodically, searching for clues, DNA, fingerprints, anything that could explain what had happened. But the condition of her body made it clear. This was no accident. Catalina had been murdered in cold blood. As the news spread, Córdoba was shaken to its core. Catalina was a beloved figure, a young woman full of promise, now gone in the most brutal way imaginable. The city buzzed with speculation. Was this a random act of violence, or had someone targeted her? Friends and followers flooded her social media accounts with messages of shock and sorrow. How could this happen, they asked. Catalina's family was devastated but determined to find justice. She didn't deserve this, her father said, his voice breaking as he addressed reporters. She was our light. The pressure on the police to solve the case was immense. This wasn't just a murder, it was a message, and the community wanted answers. As investigators delved into Catalina's life, they began uncovering threads that led them to a surprising figure, Nestor Soto, a classmate of Catalina's. Nestor was quiet, reserved, and often overlooked. To most, he was just another face in the crowd. But the more they dug, the more questions arose. What connection did he have to Catalina? And why was he suddenly of interest to the investigation? As the pieces began to fall into place, a chilling picture started to emerge. The police discovered that Nestor had been obsessed with Catalina for months. His social media accounts were filled with cryptic posts, some of which seemed to reference her. He had even told mutual friends that he understood her better than anyone else. Was this admiration, or something much darker? Before any conclusions could be drawn, the authorities had to gather more evidence. What they would find in the coming days would shock everyone, revealing a story of obsession, betrayal, and a crime as calculated as it was horrifying. The discovery of Catalina Gutierrez's lifeless body sent shockwaves through Córdoba. A city once bustling with hope and vibrancy now reeled from the brutality of her murder. Investigators knew they were racing against time. The killer had left behind clues, but would they lead to justice, or had he already slipped away? The clock was ticking, and every detail mattered. The first breakthrough came from the scene itself. Catalina's car, where her body was found, held more than just the evidence of a horrific crime. It was a goldmine of forensic clues. Blood splatter patterns, partial fingerprints, and traces of accelerant used to burn her body all painted a picture of a crime committed with chilling precision. But the question remained, who was behind it? The police needed more. Investigators turned their focus to Catalina's life. As a beloved influencer and student, she had a wide circle of friends, classmates, and admirers. But as they interviewed those closest to her, one name kept surfacing: Nestor Soto, a quiet, introverted classmate who had recently grown close to Catalina. To some, he seemed harmless, a reserved student. Nestor mostly kept to himself, but others described a different side, a man whose admiration for Catalina Gutierrez bordered on obsession. The deeper investigators dug into Nestor's life, the more unsettling the picture became. On social media, he had liked and commented on nearly every one of Catalina's posts. His messages to her were frequent, sometimes crossing the line from friendly to overly familiar. Investigators discovered that he often sent her cryptic texts, claiming he knew her better than anyone and that they were meant to be. To Catalina, these messages seemed strange but harmless, a case of a shy classmate with a crush. But to the police, they suggested something much darker. When detectives searched his online profiles, they found even more disturbing evidence. Nestor had created private blogs and journals dedicated to Catalina, filled with entries about their imagined connection. In one entry he wrote, "She's the only one who truly understands me, even if she doesn't know it yet." In another, he described feeling betrayed when he saw her with other friends, particularly men. These posts painted a chilling picture of a man consumed by his fixation on Catalina. But was it enough to tie him to the murder? The investigation took a dramatic turn when police obtained security footage from the area near the parking lot where Catalina's car was found. The grainy video showed a figure resembling Nestor walking toward the car late that night, carrying what appeared to be a gas canister. He moved quickly, his body language tense as if afraid of being seen. Moments later, flames erupted from the car, illuminating the dark lot in an eerie glow. Forensic evidence further tightened the noose around Nestor. Tests confirmed that the accelerant used to burn Catalina's body matched the residue found on his clothing. When police brought him in for questioning, investigators found traces of his DNA on the car door handle and inside the vehicle. The evidence was mounting, but the most chilling revelation was yet to come. As the police pieced together the timeline, they uncovered a shocking detail. On the night of Catalina's murder, Nestor had texted her multiple times, asking to meet. His tone was urgent, almost pleading. One message read, "I just want to talk. Please, I need to see you." Catalina, always kind-hearted, had agreed, unaware of the danger she was walking into. What did Nestor say to her that night? And how did the meeting take such a horrific turn? During questioning, Nestor initially denied any involvement, claiming he had been at home and was unaware of Catalina's whereabouts. But as the evidence mounted, his story began to crumble. Under pressure, he confessed. However, his confession wasn't one of remorse. Instead, it revealed the depths of his delusion. "She was everything to me," he told investigators. "But she didn't see it. She didn't understand." His eerily calm voice sent chills through the room. This wasn't just a murder, it was the act of a man consumed by his own twisted obsession. Nestor described how he had planned the meeting with Catalina, intending to confront her about what he saw as her betrayal. He felt she had rejected him, choosing others over the connection he believed they shared. When she didn't respond the way he hoped, his anger boiled over. The argument escalated, and in a moment of rage, he attacked her. But what happened next was even more chilling. After realizing what he had done, Nestor didn't panic. Instead, he meticulously planned how to dispose of Catalina's body. He drove her car to the abandoned parking lot, stopping along the way to buy the gas canister. He thought he could erase the evidence, but he underestimated the investigators who would piece together his every move. The confession sent shockwaves through Córdoba. How could someone so unassuming commit such a brutal crime? Friends and classmates were stunned, struggling to reconcile the Nestor they knew with the man who had confessed to murder. Catalina's family, heartbroken and furious, demanded justice. Her father's words captured the grief of a community. She trusted him, and he took everything from her. He robbed us of our daughter, our light. But the story wasn't over. The investigation had revealed Nestor's role, but the trial would bring new questions. Was this a crime of passion, or had he planned it all along? And would the justice system deliver the punishment he deserved? The trial of Nestor, accused of the brutal murder of Catalina Gutierrez, gripped the entire city of Córdoba. The courtroom was packed with reporters, Catalina's grieving family, and supporters demanding justice. The case had already shocked the nation, but what would unfold in court revealed even more horrifying details about Nestor's obsession and the terrifying final moments of Catalina's life. The prosecution opened with a powerful statement, painting a picture of a calculated killer driven by delusion and jealousy. This was not a crime of passion, the lead prosecutor said. This was the culmination of months of obsession, manipulation, and control. They presented the evidence: forensic details from Catalina's car, the DNA match on the gas canister, and the haunting security footage of Nestor walking toward the scene of the crime. Every piece told the same story: this was premeditated murder. The first days of the trial focused on the timeline of events leading up to Catalina's death. Witnesses, including her friends and family, testified about her last known interactions. Her boyfriend recounted the voice memo she sent that night, her voice full of life and excitement. He broke down in tears as he described the moment he realized something was wrong, the unanswered calls, the panic that set in. The courtroom was silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. But it was the testimony of Catalina's friends that began to unravel the extent of Nestor's fixation. Several classmates described how his behavior toward her had grown increasingly unsettling in the months before her death. He would linger near her in class, interject himself into conversations, and make comments that bordered on possessive, one friend recalled. He would say things like, "She doesn't even realize how much I care about her." It was like he believed they had this special connection that didn't exist. The prosecution also presented the disturbing contents of Nestor's private journals and social media posts. Entries filled with longing, jealousy, and anger were read aloud in court. One passage, dated 2 weeks before Catalina's death, sent chills through the room. "She thinks she can ignore me, but she'll see. She'll understand who I really am." The entry revealed a mind spiraling into obsession, unable to separate reality from delusion. Then came the most damning evidence of all: Nestor's confession. The prosecution played a recording of his interrogation in which he described the night of the murder in chilling detail. His voice, calm and detached, recounted how he had asked Catalina to meet him, intending to make her listen. But when she rejected him, when she made it clear there was no romantic connection between them, his anger boiled over. "I couldn't take it any more," he said. "She didn't understand. She never understood." The courtroom was stunned as Nestor's words echoed through the speakers. It was a confession not of regret but of justification. To him, Catalina's death wasn't a tragedy. It was the inevitable result of her betrayal. The defense tried to argue that Nestor's actions were not premeditated, but rather the result of a mental breakdown. They painted him as a troubled young man struggling with unrequited feelings, someone who acted in a moment of emotional turmoil. A psychologist for the defense testified that Nestor exhibited signs of severe emotional dependency and narcissistic tendencies, which they claimed impaired his judgment. But the prosecution was quick to counter, pointing out the meticulous planning involved in the crime, the messages luring Catalina to meet him, the purchase of the gas canister, the attempt to destroy evidence. The trial reached its emotional peak when Catalina's mother took the stand. Her voice trembling, she described the pain of losing her daughter in such a brutal way. "She was my everything," she said, tears streaming down her face. "And he took her from us. He planned this. He knew exactly what he was doing." Her words resonated with everyone in the courtroom, a stark reminder of the human cost of Nestor's actions. The defense called Nestor to testify in his own defense, a risky move that left the courtroom on edge. As he took the stand, his demeanor was eerily calm. He spoke about Catalina with a strange mix of longing and bitterness, describing her as someone who didn't appreciate what she had. When asked why he killed her, his response was chillingly simple: "She left me no choice." His lack of remorse was palpable, sending a wave of unease through the room. The jury deliberated for 2 days, but the outcome felt inevitable. The evidence was overwhelming, the intent clear. Catalina's family embraced their fight for justice, finally yielding results. Nestor was sentenced to life in prison, a punishment many felt was too lenient for the pain he had caused. But the trial left lingering questions. How had Nestor's obsession gone unnoticed for so long? Could Catalina's life have been saved if someone had intervened earlier? The case became a wake-up call for Córdoba and beyond, sparking conversations about the dangers of unchecked obsession and the importance of recognizing red flags in relationships. The courtroom's echoes of justice had faded, but the haunting shadow of Catalina Gutierrez's tragic death lingered in Córdoba, Argentina. While the conviction of Nestor Sue offered some closure, the impact of his actions extended far beyond the courtroom walls. The aftermath of the trial was a stark reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of unchecked obsession. Catalina's family, still grappling with their loss, became the face of a movement. Her father, a man who had once found pride in his daughter's accomplishments, now carried the weight of her memory like a banner. "This isn't just about Catalina," he told reporters. "This is about protecting others. No family should go through what we've endured." His words struck a chord, igniting a national conversation about femicide, obsession, and the systemic failures that allowed her tragedy to unfold. Catalina's story became a rallying cry for justice and change. Vigils were held in her honor, with hundreds of people gathering to light candles and share memories of a young woman whose light was stolen too soon. Her friends and family established the Catalina Gutierrez Foundation, an organization dedicated to raising awareness about relationship violence and the warning signs of obsessive behavior. The foundation launched educational campaigns, reaching schools and universities across Argentina, where students were taught to recognize the red flags of unhealthy relationships. On social media, the platform that had once celebrated Catalina's vibrant life became a powerful tool for advocacy. The hashtag Justice for Catalina went viral, uniting voices from across the globe. Stories of similar experiences surfaced as victims shared their encounters with stalkers, obsessive behavior, and the fear of speaking out. Her death became a symbol of the fight to protect women everywhere. The Argentine government, facing mounting pressure, introduced legislation aimed at addressing stalking and obsessive behavior before it escalated into violence. Dubbed Catalina's Law, the proposed bill sought to empower law enforcement to act on reports of harassment and provide resources for victims. It was a small step forward, but one that gave her family hope that her death might save others. For Catalina's loved ones, life would never be the same. Her mother, who had spent countless mornings watching her daughter prepare for her day with boundless energy, now faced an empty chair at the breakfast table. "Every morning I think I hear her voice," she said in a tearful interview, "and every morning I remember she's gone." The grief was compounded by the knowledge that Catalina had tried to help the very person who took her life. Her kindness had been used against her. Her friends struggled to move forward, haunted by the memories of her laughter and the what-ifs that now plagued their minds. What if they had noticed the danger sooner? What if someone had spoken up about Nestor's behavior? These questions became a heavy burden, but also a call to action. Many of Catalina's friends became involved with her foundation, channeling their grief into advocacy and education. For Nestor's family, the pain of his actions was also profound. They grappled with the knowledge that their son had taken a life, that his obsession had led to such tragic consequences. The ripple effects of Catalina's death were felt not only by her family and friends, but by the entire community, who would never forget the name of Catalina Gutierrez and the lessons learned from her life and death. The trial brought its own kind of pain. They had been blindsided by his actions, struggling to reconcile the quiet, reserved young man they knew with the monster revealed in court. His parents issued a public apology to Catalina's family, expressing their sorrow and disbelief. "We're grieving too," his mother said, "for the son we thought we knew and for the life he destroyed." Catalina's death sparked widespread discussions about the warning signs of obsession and the importance of speaking up. Psychologists and experts in mental health weighed in, urging communities to take concerns about stalking and harassment seriously. "Obsession isn't romantic, it's dangerous," one expert explained during a televised interview. The idea that love excuses controlling behavior is a myth that needs to be dismantled. Schools began incorporating lessons on healthy relationships into their curriculums, teaching young people to recognize the difference between love and control. Workshops were held for parents, helping them understand the signs of obsessive behavior and how to support their children if they encountered it. Catalina's story became a catalyst for change, not just in Córdoba but across Argentina. Despite the darkness of her final moments, Catalina's legacy was one of light and hope. Her family ensured that her dreams lived on through her foundation's work, helping countless individuals recognize the dangers of obsession and find the courage to seek help. And, her Instagram page, once a place for vibrant photos and joyous memories, became a memorial, with followers leaving messages of love and support. Her story was no longer just a tragedy, it was a beacon of awareness and resilience. But, quarter by quarter, the scars of Catalina's death remained visible, but so did the strength of the community that rallied around her memory. The streets where she had once walked were now lined with murals painted in her honor, her smiling face a reminder of the joy she had brought to those around her. The story of Catalina Gutierrez is one that continues to echo far beyond the courtroom. Her death wasn't just a tragedy, it became a turning point, a moment that forced a community, a nation, and the world to confront the dangers of unchecked obsession and the importance of standing up against violence. As the weeks turned into months, her family, friends, and supporters turned their grief into action, ensuring that her story would never be forgotten. Catalina's name became a symbol of hope and resilience. Her family, though forever shattered by her loss, channeled their pain into building a lasting legacy in her honor. The Catalina Gutierrez Foundation, founded just weeks after her trial, grew rapidly, partnering with organizations across Argentina to educate the public about the warning signs of unhealthy relationships. Its workshops and social media campaigns reached thousands, empowering victims to recognize the red flags of stalking and seek help before it's too late. Her Instagram page, once a vibrant collection of her happiest moments, became a memorial, where followers shared their memories and tributes. "We'll never forget you," one follower wrote. Another posted, "Your light still shines in everything we do." For her family, these messages were a bittersweet reminder of the life she had touched and the dreams she could no longer fulfill. The trial of Nestor Sue and the events surrounding Catalina's murder became more than a local tragedy. It sparked a global conversation about the dangers of obsession and the need for proactive intervention. Experts and activists called for greater awareness, emphasizing that love is not control and that actions rooted in jealousy and possessiveness are anything but romantic. He proposed Catalina's Law, which sought to address stalking and harassment, gaining widespread support. Advocates argued that early intervention could have prevented Catalina's death, and that her case highlighted the gaps in legal protections for victims of obsessive behavior. Though the bill faced political hurdles, it became a rallying point for activists and a testament to Catalina's enduring impact. Catalina's story also served as a stark reminder of the justice system's limitations. While Nestor Sue received a life sentence, many argued that the system had failed Catalina long before that night. Her family spoke out about the importance of taking stalking and harassment seriously, urging authorities to treat these behaviors as early warning signs of potential violence. Catalina's death wasn't just a random act of violence, her father said in a televised interview. It was the result of a system that didn't recognize the signs, a society that still romanticizes unhealthy behaviors. "We can't let her die in vain." His words inspired a new way of activism, with rallies and campaigns across Argentina calling for systemic change. Catalina's life and death remind us of the fragility of trust and the importance of vigilance. Her story highlights the need to speak out, to take threats seriously, and to protect those who may not see the danger they're in. It's a call to action for individuals, families, and communities to recognize the red flags of obsessive behavior and to stand together against violence. Her case also underscored the importance of teaching young people about healthy relationships, helping them understand the difference between love and control. Through her foundation's work, thousands of students and families have learned how to navigate these difficult conversations, ensuring that Catalina's story continues to save lives. The loss of Catalina Gutierrez is a tragedy that will never fade, but her legacy is one of strength, awareness, and hope. Her light continues to shine in the lives she's touched and in the actions her story has inspired. She reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance to create change, to turn grief into purpose, pain into progress. If this story moved you, please consider supporting efforts to combat violence and raise awareness about the dangers of obsession. Subscribe to our channel to hear more stories like this, where truth and justice meet, and join us in making a difference. Like this video, share your thoughts, and help us spread Catalina's message. Together, we can ensure that her story is never forgotten. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay vigilant, stay informed, and always stand up for what's right.